How many times have we been told if we want something, just ask for it? Go be courageous, go be bold. But it's not that simple. Asking for things is really, really hard. It brings up feelings of inadequacy and fear. It's really miserable trying to ask for a raise or ask for a new job. And if you think that's really tough, you should know what it's like to try to raise money for a startup. One of the things that I really feel passionate about is the dwindling numbers of women in technology. The technology industry in particular suffers from issues of the wage gap, from lack of women in management positions, and the gender divide for funding for female-founded companies is as much as $7.7 billion per year. What if there was a simple way to start a solution for this? What if there is an easier way to try to move the numbers? Well, I think one of the ways is for women to ask, but not so simple as that. It's a skill set, like riding a bike, and it's something that you can learn. We can take the fear away from it when we think of it as a process. I call this 3 no's to a yes. Number 1, know your audience. Number 2, know yourself. And number 3, no doesn't mean no forever. Men have been practicing this skill set forever. From the time they've been 15 years old, they've been asking girls on a date one after the other, after the other, after the other. Pretty soon, they get to a yes. Their persistence is rewarded, and they start to build muscle memory. While women are taught to sit back and wait, make themselves attractive, and someone will come to you. Well, when you're building a business or when you're looking for a raise, making yourself attractive, working really hard, and sitting back and waiting is not going to work. You need to ask and keep asking. In 1991, I learned the skill set of the ask. I was a lawyer before I got into tech, and it was a terrible time to be a lawyer. The economy was in terrible shape. The law firms were cutting associate classes by 70%, and still people were pouring into law school because of a hit TV show called LA Law. So I sent out my resumes, I interviewed over and over again and heard lots and lots and lots of no's. I was really discouraged. At the time, probably I wasn't hitting the right audience. I was looking for people who really had limited capacity to hire and really weren't interested in the skill set that I had of both the law and language from working in Tokyo. So when I saw an article in a Crane Chicago Business about a new firm that was starting up that was doing cross-border work between the United States and Asia, I decided to call them up. I asked, I'm a perfect fit for you. I have a law degree. I've also worked in Asia. Let's have a conversation. So we had a really great talk, and I thought things were really going well. And I said, so do you see me as a fit in your company? They said, well, we're not hiring for lawyers right now. But I asked. I said, are you hiring for anything else? And they said, yes, we're looking for a receptionist. And I said, I'll take it. So as a successful attorney with international law experience, I took a job at a company as a receptionist for $27,000 a year when my peers were making $80,000. But I was in a space that I loved, and I had a job. I worked really hard, and I started to work on more and more deals in the company. So, as you can imagine, working 12 hours a day, I was very, very frustrated to find out that a gentleman that was younger than I was, with less experience, less education, doing the same job, was making more than twice as much. So I went into my boss, and I asked him why this was and what we could do about it. Well, he didn't have a good answer for me as to why, but he did raise my salary to $36,000 a year. He said at the time, that's the largest salary you'll ever get. And I said, I think you're wrong. So asking has never stopped for me. Many people don't realize that venture capitalists, when they're building a fund, have to go out and ask investors to invest in their fund before they can turn around and invest in other people's businesses. So there's lots and lots of asking and lots of no's. And those no's can become very, very discouraging. I still feel a little kick in my stomach every time someone says to me that they don't feel that what I'm building is valuable, or that they think that the funding gap for women is because they aren't building interesting companies or aren't doing things that are large enough. But I persist, I keep on, and I keep asking. So if you're ready to ask, how can you do it? What's the skill set? 3 no's to a yes. So the first, know your audience. This is one sometimes men sort of struggle with. When I go to a conference, men do not stare at my breasts, they stare at my name tag, the one that says investor. They come straight up to me and start launching into a pitch. If they'd stopped and taken a few minutes to find out what I'm interested in, they'd have a much better chance, a much better opportunity of finding out what I want and how we could work together. But they don't. So then number 2 is know yourself. This is your value proposition. This is self-knowledge. And this is something that kids sometimes struggle with. They're really, really persistent, and they know who their right audience is, the parents with all the money, but they don't ever communicate what their value proposition is. I think we all remember Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Veruca saying, "Daddy, I want an Oompa Loompa now." Well, she was really persistent. She had the right audience, but absolutely no value proposition. If you don't have self-knowledge, then the ask just becomes a demand. It's really important to know your value. When people are asking for a raise, sometimes I say to them, just throw out your regular resume. It's worthless. What you really need to put together is a value resume, a place so you can show exactly what you've contributed and what value you've brought to the company. That's going to do it, and you can refer back to that when you ask. Okay, so third, no doesn't mean no forever. This is where persistence comes back in. You have to keep asking. If you found something that you really, really want, you have to figure out how to navigate around it. I didn't get that job at the investment firm because I took, no, we're not hiring lawyers right now, for an answer. We live in a really complicated and really incredibly competitive world. And there are all kinds of challenges that people are facing that I cannot even begin to understand. But this is a challenge that I know all too well. It's a skill set. It's a process. So now that you have the skill set of the ask, go be courageous and go be bold.